Right guys, so I am going to talk you through this micro pellets and expanders. Now, I've actually caught on it in the summer. It can be good in the summer, but really it's coming into its own springtime and the time of year we're coming into now. I'm not saying you can't catch with them in the coldest times in winter as well, because you can, and I will talk you through why I will do that in a minute. But it really is coming into its own now. Fish are still responding to feed over the next month or so, but they're not. You don't want to be sitting over big beds of feeds. You might catch like it the last couple of hours, but the cold nights, they're certainly not wanting a lot to start with. They are responding to a bit of noise and stuff, but it is about moving about a bit now. Like F1 venues, really, this is really good. Doing it like short, in the right depths of water, you'd be looking like 3 foot. And the deep water, starting the deep water now where it's cold at night, bottom of the near shelf. Carp waters like rookery, magpie rookery, I've caught really well on this. Like before now, coming into this time of year, just chasing them around, starting short, chasing them around, and I'll explain to you what I mean by chasing them around. Yeah, and then catching them like on maggots down the edge or something later on. But it's a great way to start, and where it's cold at night and they're not really wanting to feed early on, you can catch on it all day if you time yourself right. Like on a Snake Lake, I'd be setting 2 rigs up, one for deep water, one for sort of 2.5 foot, 3 foot. Obviously open water, try and get away with 1 rig. I'll go into the rigs first. This isn't the right rig for it, but you'll get what I'm trying to show you. It would be a wire, one of the rubes. I'd still use a rube for carp fishing, 020 mainline, just durable, because you are still fishing for a decent weight at the moment. This is carbon, but you want the wire, the Titan stems. It's so important. As a back shot, a short line you can get away with, not to hamper your presentation. Now, depending on the depth of water, it would be a 416 or a 418. Even if it was flat calm, again, for how you're going to present the bait, the rigs couldn't be any simpler. On a 416 or 418, it'd be a bunch of number 8s, another number 8 just above the hook length, and then a 4-inch hook length. I'd be on 015 this time of year now. Like I said, the water is just starting to clear a bit. You are going to catch a few other species on this as well. Elastic, again, this isn't the right one. This is just a rig I've just grabbed out of the top kit case quick. I'd be on, for me, the 14 to 16, the yellow slick, through a power kit. Plenty of stretch, you're never going to get bust up on the 015 bottom. You can still land fish really quickly with a puller on it. That is the one for carp fishing for me. On an F1 water, I would be fishing like, it would be the dusty, just a bit thinner tip, the 1.5, because they do start to go really funny F1s this time of year. Yeah, it would be a F1, a short kit, and I would be on the 10 to 12 slick now. 011, like 011.5, 012.5 hook length, or 012 hook length. Give it another month, that will get scaled down again. I will talk about it because it's going to be going on. This is a rig I'll use all winter now, going into winter. Sort of go to the end of October, and it would be, for F1s, I would be on the green, the 8 to 10 in a short kit. 016 mainline. I don't go any lighter than that in the winter. The fish don't react to everything. On pellets, I would use an 011 hook length in the winter for F1s. Odd chance of a carp or something as well. On carp waters, I would be, in all honesty, on carp waters I use the same rig in the winter. The 011 bottom, 012 bottom max, and the green. That lands every fish I need to. They come in easy. Puller kit, that's what I used all last winter at Rookery. Won the Winter League there last year. caught weights over £100 with that elastic, you can really give them some on it. You're not going to get broke. It's all balanced. Yeah, so 416 or 418, depending on the wind, it would always be 416 minimum for the deeper water. For shallower water, like the 2.5 foot, I'd use a 414, but exactly the same shotting. The only thing that would change in the winter is, whereas I've got a 4-inch hook length below and the hook on, in the winter I'd have the 4-inch hook length on, and this is really important. It's something I've always done with all my winter hook lengths, and I'll show you when we do maggots and stuff in the winter. I actually have my number, it's a number 9 dropper on these rigs, so when it comes to the winter, number 9 on the hook length by the knot at the bottom of the hook length, so it's probably only 2.5 3 inches from the hook, and then my bolt. The simple reason for this is, I think with all my rigs in the winter, that loop creates a bit of, it's not doing it because it's quite heavy line, but on your little bit lighter line, there's a bit of movement there, and the bites are so tiny in the winter. Especially with pellets, this take them in and out, spit them out before you had time to sit. So I'm taking all that loop out and keeping it straight with the shot on there, and it's 3 inches from the hook. You should see bites. It'd be the 1.5 tip for all of my winter fishing with this rig. So that is the rigs. It's tiny little things, so it's really positive. You're not fishing through the water, you want to drop it down. It's how you put your rig in with your feed. So we get on to the next thing, feeding. Now, you can fish softened 4mm while it's cooling down, and a 6mm expand on it, but for me, it's all about micros with the expanders. Now, on the carp waters at the moment, I would be using a 6mm expander. I've done the video how to prepare expanders, so if you haven't seen it, just go through the videos, find it. There's a video on how to prepare expanders. I haven't done how to prepare micros though. I've just done a few for you here. You're not going to need lots of bait, and as it goes into winter, you're going to need even less. Just get a few in the bottom of your bait box. I hope you can pick up on that. Cover them to the top of the pellets with water. At the moment, the water's still quite warm, so you can do it on the bank with lake water. As we start to get some frost and the water gets really, really cold, I would suggest doing them at night. Do them like that with just some cold water out the tap. Tap water does not bother the fish, don't care what anyone says. It's a myth. They can't smell the little tiny traces of stuff that are in that, especially if you put some flavouring in there like I like to. They're not going to smell that, a tiny proportion of that against the whole lake. It isn't going to work. It's, yeah, don't worry about that. While I'm talking about flavouring, like I say, I like to flavour. I use, most of my venues can use my own pellets, so in the winter I always use the F1, the spotted fin F1 micros. On carp waters I would still use the 2mm, the micros, the catalyst ones at the moment with a catalyst expander. As soon as it gets cold, I like the F1 even for carp, and I'll be using a 4.5mm expander generally once it gets cold, just with some micros. So, but on the, talking about flavourings, whatever you do, don't go putting pellet oil or something on once the water gets really cold. It just coagulates in the water because it's oil based. You want something glycerin based, like the sweet stuff, like the F1. It still disperses in the water. If you put something pellet but oil based in, you're just going to get globs of oil around your peg. You're not going to attract anything with that. It's not going out into the water. It's rubbish. Don't do it. That's for warm water, if you like that sort of thing. So yeah, just cover them, let them soak. But like I say, if it was when we get into cold with my mug, because I do them the night before, just do them like this. Leave them on the worktop, let them soak in the water for a bit. Tip them in a food bag. Give them a good shake just to separate them. And just put them in your bait bag ready for the next day. You just have to break them up in the morning because they'll be stuck in a few balls, but that is it. So I hope that's useful for you. Right, on to feeding. This time of year, this is a large pot. I'd probably start with a medium in all honesty. sorry, let me just get the lid off this. Initial feed anywhere would just be literally filling it to the top. They haven't quite expanded yet, so they'd be a bit gloopy, but they do dry out a bit, soak the water. Yeah, just to the top. Make sure it's right at the end of your pole tip. If you're a bit slippy because your pole's narrow, just put some tape on there just to thicken it up a bit. Once to right at the end, you need to be really accurate with this. And like I've said before, you're putting that out, hold your tip under the water, don't want to be making lots of noise. These are going to sink quite slowly, so you don't want to be splashing them on, tapping it on the water trying to get them out. It's just going to make fish, while they're still looking for the food, come up in the water, foul hookers. They're not feeding shallow, they're just coming up, and you can't present expanders like that. So make sure you sneak it in, just hold it on the water. Like most of these new pots, like these matrix ones, got little holes so they won't stick in there and they will just fall through over a tiny little area, and then you're lowering. This is why there's no big floats and everything. Wire stem, you're literally letting them, the process you want to get, go out, feed your bait, tip it in, get to your spot, make sure you're lined up and something. You've got to be accurate. Let it fall out, then set your rig. Don't be bothered about setting your rig and then doing it. Do that, lift your rig out, right, you'll see it, that's because the water's clearing now, you'll see your pellets go in. Now, as soon as you'll see them start falling down, lift your rig out, lift it all the way out to the hook bait almost, and then lower it down with that ball so it falls exactly the same time as that ball. No rush to drop that down, you want to be lowering it with it. What I do if I'm like, once we get to a bit more winter and like you're fishing this longer, pellets longer, you're going to be throwing maggots short. Most venues are throwing maggots short. I would then, what I get into the routine of is lowering that down and throwing my maggots while I'm doing it. And then as soon as that's settled, all I'm worrying about is keeping that bait over that pile of pellets. That's what I do, that's my own personal way of doing it. Yeah, and you're just waiting for bites. Bites are going to be quite positive, especially now. Like I say, this really accentuates the bites. Big dropper close to your hook. Sharp little dinks. That's what you're looking for. If your float's going sideways, it's those ones. It's because you put your bait on, but because they sink slowly, you are going to get an old one do it. Now, the way around it, if there's fish in your peg, is squeezing your pellets into a little ball. Look, this is a big ball, we've got a big pot on here. I start with a medium generally, unless it's a really good carp, like magpie rookery, I'd still probably start with a large one, because there's a lot of fish. Yeah, just putting that in, same principle, dropping it down, lowering your bait over that little ball. And it's as simple as that, in all honesty. As winter comes on, I would be, like when we get into the proper winter, and it's on F1 waters now, it could still start to work in you're not fishing for a big weight anymore. Generally, I used to fish tunnel barn, and by this time of year you're fishing for like £80 and you're going to catch half of that short the last hour. So it's just about catching an odd fish. So the smaller pot, the smallest toss pot we do, with the lids on, just sprinkling a few out. You're not going to lose them as you fall out because of them lids. And as it gets really into winter, pellets can still be good, and literally feeding like 10 micros. Sounds really negative. A 3mm expander can work. I normally just stick with the 4s, I'll be honest. It's always worked for me. Now, some people just fish maggots everywhere in the winter. I'm talking about more in like a month, 6 weeks time. But there's venues like I can think of, Beastie and Horseshoe at Decoy, for example, with so many little silvers. Then you're building your maggots up with them for sure, and you can catch them quickly. You can't do it long. You'd never catch anything tapping maggots in long. So pellets, even when it's freezing cold. I remember I did a feature for match fishing there last year, coldest day of the year. And we caught loads of F1s at like 14 metres. I would be looking to fish just at long range with pellets when it gets really cold. And then your maggot short, like I say. yeah, just tapping in, filling the little cup up, it probably holds 30-40 micros, filling it up and just regularly tapping like six pellets out. Wait a couple of minutes, no sign, tap another 6 out, keep them in your pot, just keep tapping a few more out, just lifting and dropping the rig through them, just trying to draw a fish in. They really don't like to sit over a pile of bait as it gets colder. So that would be the way to go. Now, I've touched on all the feeding and everything. They're really quick response, even in the depths of winter. Like another venue used to fish Lake Ross. There's no winter league there this year, sadly. I've won it the last 2 years. And pellets long was always the way to start, like 14 metres, tapping in pellets, because there were loads of roach again. You'd always get 2 or 3 that's where they just sat out in the open water. Just tapping in very few. Now what happens is you'll get bites quickly, like I say, pellets are an instant bait. This is what you want to get in your head. Pellets get you the quickest bites. It's like fishing short with hard pellet. They just respond to the noise of them going in. So you're going to get quick bites, but you'll soon know when there aren't no bites. You just won't get any signs. The fish, especially as it gets cooler, or now, let's say, you just stop getting bites and you have to move. So the plummet is your best friend. Put your plummet back on, move. If you start short, move out a section. Just putting one piece of pole on, starting again. If you're just fishing longer already, moving a metre, pick a new marker, move a metre one way, move a metre the other way. You can always go one way, then go the other. If that is the case where you're doing that, a good tip is when you hook a fish long, see which way it swims. Like you will find that when you hook them, it will go off one way or the other or further, and it's where you're picking a couple off, they're going back to the main ball of fish. So pay attention to which way they go when you hook them, and that is the way I would always move first, and then you can always go the other way. You might chase them that way and then they might go around that way and sit in the space where you haven't been feeding, so then you go that way. Adding a section on, like I say, a great one I'll use as an example, Lake Ross I was talking about. The first winter league I fished there was 3 years ago. The first round of it, I drew peg 3, wasn't very good, remember it well. Everyone said, oh no, you want to be around the other side. Started on a top 5 of pellets. It's all the same depth there, it's 5 foot everywhere, so one rig did all. Started short, caught some the big F1s, I caught 3 or 4, didn't have a bite, added a section on, caught 2 or 3 more, added a section on, just kept chasing all the way up to 13 or 14 metres, and then I've just gone left and right, and that day the left was by far better because it was the better, you're getting down towards the better side of the lake. Caught all day, had £100 F1s, won the match. Fed half a pint of micros. It's just about chasing them. They back off with the water being clear. They don't want to see lots of fish caught. They don't want to sit over lots of bait. So you just keep chasing them about. That's what I'm explaining. Yeah, it's really, it sounds confusing. You might fish 20 lines, but you literally, because you're only putting so little bait in, you're catching what's coming over. As soon as they're not feeding and you've fed 2 or 3 times, you've got a pile of bait there, they don't want to be over it. So you have to move and start again. And just follow them about. If you go one way, don't get bites, go the other way. If you don't get a bite, add in a section on, add 2 of them, go a bit further out. It's simple as that. So that is, to me, hard pellet, soft pellet fishing. If you're on a snake lake and there are other different depths, again chasing them about, if you're not getting bites in the deep water and you've chased them about and like the sun's come out a bit, you feel it, not in winter, you feel it warm up as the day goes on sometimes. Just go on 3 foot, start straight in front of you and then go left and right. But yeah, it's all about just chasing them about. It's a busy, it's just about reading what's going on. Because it's instant, you'll soon know if you're in the right place or not. I wouldn't give a line more than 10 minutes. It's not something you're building up very well. But that is going to be the one over the next 6 weeks or so before it gets freezing cold, and then a lot of venues it's all maggots depending on the silvers. If there's too many small silvers you're not going to fish long. With maggots, that would still be my way to go. Anything else with it? Any other baits I would use with it? Like I said, you could soften some 4mm pellets up, that can work, but I'd rather just feed a ball of micros. The only thing I would probably fish with this, actually I did this style with someone coaching the other day on Sunday, and it's really windy, and what you'll find with expanders is they're so light, they do rise off the bottom, and you're not sorting your bait out in the toe, which isn't ideal when you're trying to fish over a pile. The first way about it is where your expanders are in a little bit of water on your side track, squeeze them so they suck in the water before you hook them. Just adds a bit more weight to them. If that's still not doing it, corn. We did this on Sunday in the end. Just a piece of corn on the hook. You don't necessarily have to feed any. If I was, I'll do a separate video on corn in the winter because it's something I really like doing. Like now, when it's water still warm, just feeding your micros 2 or 3 bits of corn in, just so your hook bait don't look weird on its own. But as it gets really cold, just sitting there with a bit of corn over a few micros is the way to go. It's just heavy anchors your rig. You don't want to be laying a lot of line on the bottom. As always, I like to plumb up to there, especially with this because your shot is so close to your hook, your dropper. If you fish any line on the bottom, it's going to be stood out the water. So that's why we use the big float again, just so we can hold it still. Plenty of back shot. And I think that is soft pellet fishing covered. If there is anything I've missed, probably is. Hook size, I always use a 16 even in the middle of winter for a 4mm, and for a 6mm always use a 14. You want a big hook, helps hold it on it. You bury it all in the thing, it just helps keep it on when you're missing bites. Don't strike too hard at bites, that's the other thing, just a little lift. That's why you want the short line if you can. If it's too windy, you're not going to fish pellets well, so I'd always fish 12 inches and for long, even like 4 inches for the shorter line, just so you're tiny lift, you're not striking the bait off, not getting frustrated. And I think that is everything. Let me know if there is anything I have missed, any other methods you want to cover. I'm not going to go into the pellet wagglers and all this sort of stuff. I will do some winter waggler fishing. We'll do the bomb and bread over the next few weeks because they're things with maggot feed, all these things are going to come into play, but we're going to start looking at the cooler weather methods now. So if there's anything you particularly want me to look into for you, I'll get a video done. But as always, thanks for watching.